You have to have the courage to pull the company up and force them to change and move. It's like a kid opening gifts on Christmas. The people who come to invent are really excited about what the cloud is letting them do. When you have a new idea that hasn't been done before, you need that conviction, that blind faith that it could work. I think a lot of societal good is already being done with facial recognition technology. When you look at whether a company is a monopoly or not, the first thing you look at is what kind of market segment share they have. Jeff is an incredibly unusual leader who is unbelievably talented, and I learned a massive amount. There is no compression algorithm for experience. Our leadership principles often have tension in them, and I think that's actually a good thing, and it makes sense. I think you need a leadership team that is absolutely ravenous to get at the truth. Customers or employees are free to shoot me email. I may not respond to every single one, because sometimes the numbers are voluminous, but I read them all. Tennis taught me what happens when you really work on something, and what happens when you don't. For us, employee safety is priority number one. For us in our fulfillment centers, invention requires two things. One, the ability to try a lot of experiments, and two, not having to live with the collateral damage of failed experiments. Everybody at the company has the freedom, and really, the expectation, to critically look at how it can be better, and then invent ways to make it better. A lot of times in intense moments, you tend to play conservatively, because you're just trying to avoid losing, as opposed to trying to win. Tennis is very much a meritocracy. There's no favoritism, there's no politics. You either win or lose based on how you perform in the moment. If you're flying everyone business and first class to meet customers, it's a pretty substantial expense, and none of that benefits customers. If you do any thorough apples to apples objective comparison of AWS versus Microsoft, you don't come out deciding that they're comparable platforms. You have got to be maniacal and relentless and tenacious about getting to the truth. The reason Netflix chose to use AWS is because they knew they'd be treated as every bit as important a customer as Amazon the retailer is. I think that always our focus is gonna be the customers. With everybody being remote, and everyone just getting one square, we have contributions and participation on a much more even playing field. It's incredible how passionate people are about having the tools to control their own destiny. In our business, you have to be able to have access to capital. There is insatiable demand for AWS cloud services. Being successful right away is obviously less stressful, but when it takes longer, it's often sweeter. You have to be willing to have failures along the way. We don't think of HQ1 being Seattle any longer. We really think of it as Puget Sound. You have to know what your customers think about your product and where you sit, relatively speaking. You have to know what's working and what's not working. You can't just go careening toward your idea without checking in with customers and people who might use it and making sure you're onto something. We don't think at all about how the AWS business complements the Amazon business from a financial overview perspective. We have a lot of people in Seattle, but we also have a lot of people in Bellevue, and it is where most of our growth will end up being. You have to challenge people, often people who know a lot more about a subject than you do. When you need to make changes, even when people don't want to change, you have to pick the company up and change it, even if it means cannibalizing yourself. I think if you have a large group of people like we do, we have 1.2 million employees. It's almost like a small country. For me, it was valuable just to be able to watch how Jeff operated every day, as well as his leaders and his direct reports. We're much more focused on the long term than most companies. Some businesses take off in the first year, and others take many years. We always had a lot of optimism for this game. New world. Customers really liked it. It tested really well. I think our relationship with Seattle has had ups and downs, frankly. You have to know what competitors are doing in your space.